Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IPT Podcast. We had Eduardo Santaella with us today, who's the COO and General Manager of Mobile Insight. And he got a chance to share a little bit about his background, which I did not know he went to Georgia Tech.
And I didn't know he was a drummer.
Very cool. And he's a drummer too, right? Venezolano, so Latino, which is very cool. And so we chatted with him a little bit about what Mobile Insights is up to, what their main nugget is, which is VIBA, Virtual Interactive Brand Ambassador, and the technology around that. I thought it was a great conversation.
It was. Look, as always, we want to keep the human element at the forefront. He definitely went into his background, which was fantastic to hear his view on it all, starting with open source and how his passion really revolves around that.
Yeah. And so now stay tuned for the IPT Podcast with Eduardo Santaella, COO and General Manager of Mobile Insights. But first, a word from our sponsor. VIBA is T-ROC's virtual interactive brand ambassador. VIBA delivers contactless, personalized shopping and service experiences anytime, anywhere through live video engagements and rich media content. VIBA is the only video conference-based, omni-channel customer experience solution that delivers sales, service, and supports experiences whenever, however, and wherever they're needed. When customers want answers, they want them instantly and accurately. With VIBA, you close the gap between online and offline engagements with safe, convenient, and accurate real-time experiences. VIBA is best when experienced. So visit VIBAconnect.com to see more for yourself and schedule a demo.
Eduardo, great to have you today. Thanks for being with us. We are very excited to have a technology executive with us today. We'd love to hear, as much as you're a technology executive, we'd love to hear your human story about how you got into retail in the first place. Let's start there, please.
Cool. Thanks for the invite, guys. Really appreciate it. And I guess the best way to describe me, or to start describing me, Chris, is by saying that I'm a rambling wreck from Georgia Tech and a good engineer. And you know, people always joke about who's the best school, but what I can tell you is that Georgia Tech had the first information technology school, formal school in the nation. And so that tells you a lot about how much thinking they put into the program. It was a great program, and it gave me the ability to work with very interesting people, what I call notable people in the industry. For example, I was a TA for Vladimir Slameka, which, by the way, his son is the CEO of AT&T Europe now. So he was not only my professor, but my guide over there. We did very, very interesting projects back then. I'm not going to tell you how long ago was that, but it was very, very significant into my overall formation as a technology guy.
Well, so since we're both gray-haired guys, I'm going to just go ahead and ask you, I mean, how did you have the foresight to get into technology? I'm going to call it back then, because certainly it was not at the forefront like it is today in those times.
The best way I can describe it is technology is simpler than people. Dealing with people is very complicated. Dealing with technology is very simple. You just let it and do what it needs to do, and there you are off to the races.
So if you give it a specific set of instructions, it actually listens? Is that what you're saying? Okay, perfect. So that's what drew you into technology, is the simplicity of it to some extent.
Well, yes, and always, technology is like medicine, Chris. There's always something new around it. You need to keep up. So part of your day-to-day job has to be research, reading what's out there, what people are doing. And there's no other field, outside of technology that is present anywhere you look at. I mean, you cannot imagine medicine without technology, retail without technology, energy without technology, education without technology. So it's a persistent uh, theme everywhere you look at, and that's what really drove me into being involved in the technology side.
What was your next step after Georgia Tech? So you got
Yeah,
your
I went to after Georgia Tech. I spent almost 3 years there getting my master's degree, and you're immediately gonna say you're bon vivant because you were actually partying more than studying. But it was really, I stayed there because of the projects I was telling you about with Dr. Slameka. We were putting at the time a national a library network similar to what Google does in Egypt at the time. So I was part of that project. I was part of the Linux and in Unix at the time rollout into all the schools for the what we called the university network at the time. So it was really very, very interesting. After that, I became the CIO of I'm originally from Venezuela. So I came to the US, got my master's, went back to Venezuela, and I became a CIO of a large organization. Applying everything I was working with in a family business, in a large family business that had to do mostly with apparels and things like that. So it was quite a change, but that gave me a very nice opportunity to learn how difficult it was at the time to be able to use technology at affordable pricing. And so I spent 3 or 4 years there as a CIO. And then I put together my first company. I was 28, and I grew it to almost a 200 people technology company. We were the first Sun Microsystems distributor in Latin America and always remained as the largest one. So you can imagine people in Venezuela competing with people in Brazil, where Brazil is, 10 to 20 times larger economy, and we were selling more. And that tells you how hard we were working there and how good of a time we were having selling technology, hardware at the time. That's when I realized that I don't want to be in the hardware business ever. And that's when I jumped into the software industry, and I remained in that side of the technology spectrum ever since.
So you were the largest distributor in Venezuela for Sun Microsystems for some time in Latin America?
Yes,
That's
we were the
amazing.
largest. We were selling at the time 15 to 20 million dollars a year in hardware
Wow.
in Venezuela.
Wow. So what caused you to switch to software, Eduardo? Like what was there an impetus for that?
Yeah, hardware is a business I don't like being in. And please don't take my comment as me bad mouthing the hardware business. All I'm saying is that it's a too complex business. You need to have very, very smart inventory management because you have machines coming out all the time that outdate your old machines. You have spare parts. It's a very difficult business to be in. And the cost of the inventory can be tremendous. And where software, you put it together and your costs of keeping it are almost zero. Once you develop the software you want or the package that you're looking at, there it is. You can sell it, you can donate it, you can exchange it, you can use it as a currency if you want to, and all those beautiful things. So
what was your first foray into software? What was the first software you dove into as you made that transition?
yeah, when I was the CIO at the garment company, we built the what you can call a predecessor to an ERP. It was an administration software that we put together, we packaged it, and we also sold it to other third parties. And it was a system that took care of inventory management, accounting, finances, treasury, those type of things. And we had a blast doing that, Steve, Chris. That was really my first step into the software industry. Later on, after I sold my hardware business to IBM, I got in touch with the SAP people, and that's how I became, a corporate citizen within SAP, and I launched SAP in the whole northern region of Latin America.
So Eduardo, look, sorry, we had a few small technical difficulties, but let's jump back in here. We were just actually offline talking about your drummer experience. So maybe you can just fill the audience in on, your experience being a drummer. Were you actually in a band? Did you start a band? Tell us a little bit more. Love to hear that.
Well, first and foremost, I've been drumming since I was 15, and that was driving my father and my mother crazy.
I can imagine.
They were always trying to convince me to take guitar, piano, something more reasonable. No, I'm a drum guy. And so I've been drumming on and off and for a long time. And as a matter of fact, I was part of a couple of nice Venezuelan groups at the time. And let me tell you, I can go all day long telling you nice stories about it. And so like renting a stadium and not having money to buy a hotel, so end up sleeping under the stand where we were playing, and I mean,
it's like Kanye West, you revolutionizing the the industry.
So look, I gotta ask then, Eduardo. We see this picture of a professional, seasoned, gray-haired gentleman, right? But was that always the picture? Was it a long-haired guy that was banging the drums?
No, not a long hair, never. I mean, but always. I mean, music gives you a different perspective for seeing life, Chris. And I don't know where I would be without it. I mean, I'd probably be even more insane than I am. But I mean, music has been a blessing, and I can only say good things about. I always say that my drums are my best psychiatrist ever. I sit down there, I think about people and start hitting the drums. You will not believe how good that is.
Well, we all have something. You have the drums. Tulsi says Iron Man's. I mean, we all have something that keeps us reasonably sane.
Right, exactly. That's how I always say. That's how I get the crazy out.
That's a great. It is a great equalizer for our lives.
So look, Eduardo, we've loved learning about you a little bit. We'd love to hear kind of your view on the current state of the environment in retail and what technologies are most relevant, most impactful for customer experience in particular, probably, and even customer acquisition. Okay. And then after that, kind of talk through your view on the future of technology in retail.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to take a step back a bit because it's very relevant to things we're doing right now. After selling my business to IBM, and I'm telling about the hardware business, and going to work for SAP, which is the leading ERP vendor or enterprise software vendor in the world, I put together yet an entrepreneur by heart. So that's the second thing you need to learn about me. A rambling wreck from Georgia Tech and an entrepreneur by heart. So being an entrepreneur, I put together a company for selling services around open source software. So that's how I came to know very well key open source projects out there. And Linux is one of them, but there are many, many other ones. And basically, that opened up a whole new world because it let me work with people all over the world, leading technology guys, and that was a blessing. And so that I ended up applying to what we do right now, big time. So part of what we do here, technology speaking, is driven by open source technology and our use of open source.
So tell me, as a layman, right? Why is open source so important? It's so critical.
Let me tell you, uh, all the money in the world will not pay for the minds and the acumen of leading people worldwide when you talk about technology and letting them work on what they're passionate about. So the open source projects allow people, whatever they are, to be working on something that is of passion to them, and then they can contribute each other into making products available. That's how not only, and I mentioned Linux, but I can also mention Open Office. I can also mention leading edge databases nowadays. Uh, it has its tentacles all over the place, Chris, and it will only come out by having leading people worldwide collaborating and working together as is one, in order to put together something that they believe is going to make a dent. And that's a fascinating environment. And so what we did was to uh, identify which were the leading projects we want to be hooked with, and then put a formal support environment, because most of this don't have any support, any consulting. And I mean, there are people working and putting out very good technology, but what good is it that technology into a corporation if you cannot have SLAs, so service level agreements, if you don't know when the new versions are coming out, so roadmaps that you can share, and on and on and on. So that's really what makes a difference between a nice development or a product, a formal product out there.
So how do you choose which products are most relevant and applicable in today's environment, right? That are going to have the most value for companies to use? Because it sounds like you start with open source and then you work from there.
Yeah, let me try to follow up the story I was trying to paint, because that open source experience marked me as a professional and as an individual for the rest of my life. And it's so interesting and important that we were able. I mean, if you translate that to the retail environment, which is where we live now and breathe all day long, first of all, retail is global, retail is massive. I think the latest numbers is like $25 trillion a year in the retail space. And retail is one of a unique melting pot to mix a lot of technologies that are out there. And let me give you an example. We've been working in RFID for inventory tracking, AI and natural language. We also have data management and analytics. So that's how you're able to say, we're not selling as we were expecting in these stores. But then again, when you cross-reference that to the demographics of the area, or the weather in the area, or the traffic into the stores in the area, that's how you come to realize, okay, I'm not selling because there's so many other elements. So you mine the data that we capture. And retail is humongous, not only for the money it circulates on a yearly basis, but for the data it produces. So really trying to make sense of that data is a very complex and interesting problem that I believe we have only have started to scratch the surface. Being able to correlate data, being able to predict, being able to explain, those are very hard things to do.
So one thing you keep referring to is what we do here, and I don't believe you keep alluding to it, but you haven't actually said what are you currently doing. You talked us through your Venezuela company that you sold and everything. So what are you currently doing? What's the work that you're doing right now?
Well, the work that I'm doing right now is I'm heading the technology organization of T-ROC, and T-ROC is deeply immersed into retail. So when Brett and I talked, it was almost 8 years ago, about me heading the technology division of T-ROC and helping T-ROC with technology elements that were not in place at the time. That really was a very nice challenge to put on my lap, because it was all about software. It was all about an area, as I told you, that is a melting pot for technology, which is retail, is humongous and is global. And there was so much to be actually doing in the area. So Chris asked me a question before: how do I select? Basically, what I do, Chris, is I'm faced with issues that we need to solve. Like, how can I understand that I need to send people to these markets better and quicker than to other markets, or quicker to than other markets? Well, there's technology out there that allow you to analyze the data, and then you can recommend your brands. Listen, we should start this program in this different markets because the demographics are right, our partners are right, and the only way you can do that is through technology. So, for example, let's talk about VIBA. And VIBA also as a melange of different technologies that we have put together. Let me go back to my original conversation with Brett, because Brett's organization originally started in what we call brand ambassador programs. And this is sending good people to stores to represent value products or complex products out there. The problem with that is that you need to have the people, you need to send them to the right place, you need to train them. And so there's always, you don't have a way to learn what they learn at the time they are selling. So it makes it a very difficult environment, or very challenging environment. I don't want to say difficult, but very challenging environment. Now, Viva is basically a platform that we have put together based on the needs that T-ROC was having, and the challenges it was having for sending the right people to the right venue at the right time, and making sure that they always have what they need in order to enlighten or delight the customers they speak with. So as a platform, what Viva allows you to do is to be able to mimic that individual at the store through technology using web conferencing facilities that are nowadays are more common than 10 years ago, and be able to take advantage of that to really provide support to the people or to the customers that are looking to buy or learn more about something. That's the genesis of VIBA. So what VIBA does is it allows agents that can be at home being able to serve or support real needs of people in the stores that want to know more about a product, use cases, warranties, competitive information, whether they can use it for a particular thing they want to do at their house or at their office, be able to see if it fits or not. So, but really, that hand-holding and that one-on-one attention to the needs or the questions of the customer is what drove VIBA originally as a platform to be able to do that.
Well, let me ask you a question, Eduardo, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
VIBA, right? What's the difference in VIBA and FaceTime, or VIBA and Zoom, right? Because on the surface, it sounds like
It's connectivity.
It's connectivity with video involved.
Well, let me tell you, all of them are used to be able to support web conferencing. And web conferencing is an important element of VIBA, even though it's not the only element that VIBA brings into the table. So, and that's where the similarities and Chris, is that all of those tools you mentioned allow you to conduct web conferencing.
Because Zoom has become like a verb in our life, right? Like, oh, let's Zoom.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like Uber. Let's Uber, right? So do you see VIBA as, well, let's VIBA? I mean, what does that mean? How does that go from where it is today to an adjective or a verb we use in our everyday language?
It's like everything else, Chris. It's about execution and us always bringing more value into the tool and allow it to be used massively in the market. And going back to the differences between the tools you were mentioning and VIBA, of course, we can do very well that web conferencing. Now, imagine you being in a store. The store is noisy. The store has people running around. The store has probably bad lighting or lights in the store. And you have a lot of in-store elements that make unique that web conferencing that you're having. So that's when we need to include very, very intelligent algorithms to dealing with noises, to dealing with knowing that a person wants to engage with you or not, being able to share information, be able to share coupons as they become relevant to what you're trying to do. So we have architected VIBA not only to be able to do web conferencing, but web conferencing in steroids, focus on servicing the need that people may have in the store with all those other elements that are impacting your ability to have a nice one-on-one interaction with an agent, which, by the way, is the right agent for you to talk to. So we take into consideration your profile, the product that you want to know more about, where you are, the language you speak. Bingo, we're able to connect you to the right agent that will hopefully will give you the information you need in order to make that purchasing decision.
And so
Sure.
one of the things I've actually had a chance to play with VIBA and have a live agent interaction many times. And so one of the things that I love about it is that augmented reality function, right? So if I'm buying a refrigerator, if I'm buying a large, screen TV, I'm able to scan with my camera and have it superimposed in the area in which I'm looking to buy it, right? So what other technologies we know that that's already out in the market, the augmented reality function, the ability to show content to customers, text specifications, colors, right? The ability for a live agent to drop in and do a help that customer with a checkout. What else is down the roadmap for VIBA?
Well, let me go back or let me take a step back because I believe that's relevant to our discussion right now. If you recall, I mentioned to you that Viva is a platform, and it was a platform that has been put together to operate well in the retail environment. And let me tell you, selecting the right agent, giving the right information to the agent to be able to delight the customer, being able to understand what the customer needs in order to present the customer the right information. Those are pretty significant problems that we've been dealing and we have solved within Viva. Now, imagine we always need to start by picturing ourselves. There's someone out there in a store wanting to buy a high value product. One of the things that prompt us to incorporate augmented reality technology into Viva was that particular problem right there. You're at a store. Imagine you're at Costco and you want to buy a jacuzzi or you want to buy a huge TV. One of the first problems you're going to have is you need to talk to your significant other for a big purchasing decision so Viva can incorporate other people to the same session so you and your significant other can be talking to that same agent at the same time in order to make that decision. B, let's see how that item looks in my living room. No, we're able with augmented reality be able to place virtually that item into your living room and you can say it looks marvelous. Do you think after you said that someone is going to take away that purchasing decision after you saw the TV at your living room as part of your environment? No one's going to convince you otherwise. So it helps make decisions, and better yet, once the decisions are made, you're pretty much sure that everything will fit into place. You buy a fridge, you want to understand that that fridge can be placed into your kitchen. You buy a large TV, you want to see how that looks into your family room, and on and on and on. So when we discuss the roadmap for Viva, the first thing we do is we are at a venue, we're trying to buy these high value items. What do we need from a Viva or a Viva agent in order to support my knowledge, convince me, and let me open up my wallet to buy that right there?
Do you think this transforms retail to a point where we don't have live people in stores anymore? Or am I speaking too far into the future there? Or maybe not at all?
Well, you're bringing an interesting point and an interesting discussion, Chris, because it's like the discussion that web commerce will completely wipe out brick and mortar. And still, up until today, brick and mortar retail is about 5 times as large as web commerce. And at the end of the day, they're both going to coexist. They're both going to have a role into the retail overall. And I think that in general, you will need fewer people, fewer support people in store providing what the brand ambassadors used to provide to the people right there, but you can have all these VIBA discussions not only in your store, but as you get ready to go to the store. So you can open up a magazine, scan a QR code, see the TV you like, be connected to a VIBA agent, and guess what? They can show you how the TV is going to look into your family room. They can give you pricing. They can tell you which retailers you want to visit, who may have a special. So that gives you a much broader and continuous touching point with your customer and with the brands. And that's pretty significant in retail because, being a retail guy yourself, that brand loyalty and being able to get assistance in selecting or making decisions with this complex purchases is what it's all about. And VIBA can be with you all day long as your purchasing agent as we speak, and have your VIBA as your intelligent body that is your butler that is always ready to help you out whenever you need to make complex buying or take complex buying decisions.
I like that, Eduardo. That to me seems like the future of where we all would like to be already, probably, where we can have an anytime, anywhere assistant helping us in our purchasing decisions, especially the more high value items, like you said.
Well, you're right. You're hitting the nail in the head, Chris, because
first time today.
No, come on, man. But here's the thing. VIBA is always learning. VIBA is always up to date. We have relevant pricing from many different sources. So it's really becoming a very interesting butler or assistant for people that want to buy important things. Can be a car, can be a computer, can be any of these things that and guess what? You're going to talk to an expert, and that expert can be a bot, because part of what VIBA brings is the AI portion into it that is able to have an intelligent conversation with the customers, not necessarily involving a human agent right away. Of course, you can always ask VIBA, I want to talk to a live agent, and here you are, you'll be transferred to your best agent in order to assist you.
Well, we love the word human, and with that, we'd love to ask you some human type questions that we think are a little bit of fun. Even for a high-tech executive like yourself, we want to get your take on these last questions as we wrap up today's session. Is that all right if we transition there, Eduardo?
Go ahead and be my guest.
Eduardo, what is your superpower?
Oy.
That
what
oy,
is oy?
That oy was in Spanish.
Well, I mean, you know where I'm coming from, and I think two things, guys. One is to always understand that we're immersed in a global economy, and understanding every business challenge I'm immersed in from a global point of view. That's number one. Number two is, through the years, I had the blessing to work with very young people, what I call green beans, and challenging them, excite them, and make them perform at their best is an incredible feel. And that's my hidden tool all day long, because those guys are always ready to jump into very challenging problems, solve them. And through the years, it's very rewarding when you when you come to realize, for example, that you gave their first job to someone that through the years became the CEO of IBM Latin America,
Cool.
or Oracle South America. I mean, it's rewarding, and it's unbelievable what you can do working with these guys and having them become excited at what they do all day long and help you out.
Love that.
Oh, great. Second question. What is your kryptonite?
Boy, again, I'm sorry to be, you know, I'm a by nature. I mean, if I told you guys that I'm an entrepreneur by heart, by nature, I'm a half full guy. I'm completely turned off by pessimistic people, half empty people, and people that only are bringing you issues, or we all have issues, and that I cannot avoid. So that behavior is a completely knockdown for me.
I identify with that. I definitely support that. All right, one more question. What do you most appreciate about what technology has brought to us?
You guys recall who Albert Einstein was?
Of course.
Okay.
Familiar.
So in one of the interviews to Mr. Einstein, someone asked him, "What's the phone number of your house?" And the guy didn't have a clue. And when he was asked, why such a marvelous and smart guy doesn't know the phone number, I said, because I focus on solving higher end or more complex problems. And the analogy I would like to give, I'm sorry, the analogy I would like to give is technology bring us a unique opportunity to focus into whatever we can provide or we can make a difference on. So if we have people calculating commissions all day long, and I'm using this as an example, if I can have those people analyzing why certain guys are not making enough money while someone else's are knocking it out of the park, and really learn from that, I can leave the calculation to technology. And that's a very simple example, but it illustrates what I'm trying to convey here is that technology allow individuals to focus in what only individuals can solve.
Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
I hope you guys had as much fun as I did.
Absolutely, Eduardo. Thanks so much.
Anytime, and thanks for doing this. Love it.